The rain hit the window in steady, rhythmic taps, mirroring the dull ache forming at the back of my skull. It was late afternoon, 4 p.m. to be precise, but inside Blackwood Psychiatric Hospital, time always felt frozen. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a pale, lifeless glow over the sterile white walls and polished floors. I leaned back in my chair, rubbing my temples. It had been a long day filled with the usual sessions, patients convinced they could hear voices, others drowning in paranoia, some too sedated to speak at all. But none of them unsettled me. Not like her. I glanced down at the file on my desk. Eleanor Reeves. Age, 32. Diagnosed with severe dissociative identity disorder and psychosis. Committed to Blackwood 10 years ago. No family, no visitors. A woman lost in the system, forgotten by the world outside. She had never been flagged as violent before, never caused any trouble. Until today. My pen tapped against the table as I flipped through the papers again. The incident report was short, but disturbing. Patient requested a private session with Dr. Holloway, proceeded to confess to 5 murders, provided specific details inconsistent with known delusions. Further investigation required. I sighed and checked my watch. 4:02 p.m. Time to meet her. I stood, grabbed my notepad, and stepped into the hallway. The air was thick with the sterile scent of disinfectant, the muffled hum of distant conversations blending with the occasional sharp cry from a patient in distress. Security was tighter today. 2 orderlies were stationed outside the therapy room, a precaution, though no one had actually seen Eleanor do anything dangerous. I nodded to them before stepping inside. She was already seated. Eleanor Reeves sat in the stiff wooden chair across from me, hands folded neatly in her lap. Her dark brown hair hung in loose waves around her face, her pale skin stretched tight over sharp cheekbones. She looked calm, too calm. Her eyes lifted to meet mine, and for a moment, I felt something shift. A strange sensation like the air between us had grown heavier. "Dr. Holloway," she said softly. Her voice was smooth, deliberate. I took my seat, pen poised over my notepad. "Eleanor, I understand you requested this meeting." She nodded. "Yes, I wanted to tell you the truth." I studied her carefully. "The truth about what?" She tilted her head slightly. "The people I killed." A pause. The room felt smaller. I kept my voice steady. "The nurses said you claimed responsibility for 5 murders. Is that correct?" Her lips curled into a small smile. "Yes." My grip on the pen tightened. "Eleanor, you've been here for 10 years. How could you have killed anyone?" She didn't blink, didn't flinch, but her answer sent a chill down my spine. "Because, doctor." She leaned forward slightly, her eyes dark and knowing. "I never really left." I kept my expression neutral, but my stomach twisted. Eleanor's words lingered in the air like smoke, clinging to the walls, refusing to fade. "I never really left." I let the silence stretch, watching her closely. There was no flicker of doubt in her eyes, no nervous tick, no manic energy. Just certainty. I finally spoke. "Eleanor, you've been a patient at Blackwood for 10 years. There's no record of you ever leaving the facility, not for visits, not for treatment, nothing. So tell me, how could you have committed these murders?" She leaned back in her chair, folding her hands neatly in her lap. "Would you like to hear how they died?" I hesitated. "I read the report. You gave details about 5 killings." She nodded. "But you don't believe me." I didn't answer. It wasn't necessary. Eleanor exhaled softly, as if she had expected this reaction. Then, she lifted her gaze, locking eyes with me. "The first one was Jonathan Kent, stabbed in his own home 3 times in the chest, once in the throat. He didn't die right away. He tried to crawl, but he bled out before he reached the door." My pen froze over the notepad, That was how Jonathan Kent had died. I had read about it in the news just a few months ago, but there was no way she could have known that. I forced myself to remain composed. And the others? Margaret Hayes, she continued, unfazed, drowned in her own bathtub. No forced entry, no fingerprints left behind, just her body, floating in the water, eyes wide open. Another real case, another unsolved murder. My mouth went dry. Eleanor smiled as if she could sense the shift in my thoughts. Shall I go on? I flipped through my notes, scanning the names. Each one matched a real murder. Each victim had died exactly as she described. But there was one detail that made my pulse pound against my ribs. One of them, Daniel Porter, had been murdered just last night. I glanced up sharply. Daniel Porter. Tell me how he died. Her smile widened. Would you like to hear it in real time? A chill slid down my spine. She leaned in. He was on his way home, late. He worked late shifts at the publishing house, liked to take the back streets, quieter, less traffic. He didn't hear me at first, not until I was right behind him. I clenched my jaw. What did you do? Her fingers tapped the armrest of the chair. A knife between the ribs. He gasped. He tried to fight, but his hands were shaking. He dropped his briefcase, papers flying everywhere. It was almost poetic. She closed her eyes as if savoring the memory. But she couldn't have been there. She couldn't have done it. And yet, she knew everything. I exhaled slowly. Eleanor, if you didn't leave this hospital, then how do you know these details? Her eyes flicked open, and this time, she wasn't smiling. Because, doctor, she whispered, I think you already know the answer. A cold weight settled in my chest. Eleanor's words hung in the air like smoke, creeping into the corners of my mind, making it harder to think clearly. I think you already know the answer. But I didn't. I couldn't. She had been a patient at Blackwood for 10 years, locked away from the world. The security here was strict. No one came and went unnoticed. Yet she sat across from me, calmly confessing to crimes she shouldn't have known about. I forced my voice to remain steady. Enlighten me then. How did you do it? Her lips curled slightly, but the amusement in her eyes had faded. You don't believe in things you can't explain, do you, doctor? I didn't respond. She tilted her head, studying me. You think there must be a logical answer? That maybe I overheard a conversation, read a newspaper, saw a television report. But tell me, doctor. Holloway? She leaned forward slightly, her voice dropping to a whisper. Was Daniel Porter's death on the news yet? My fingers tightened around my pen. Number it wasn't. His body had been found this morning. The police were still processing the crime scene, still notifying next of kin. No details had been released, and yet Eleanor had just described his murder in perfect detail. I cleared my throat. Are you saying you killed Daniel Porter from inside this facility? Her gaze never wavered. Does that sound crazier than the truth? I clenched my jaw. And what is the truth? She exhaled slowly, as if deciding whether to say it. Finally, she leaned back in her chair and whispered, I leave. The words were simple, but something about the way she said them sent a slow, crawling sensation up my spine. I forced myself to push forward. You leave? Eleanor, you have never left this facility. That's not possible. Not in the way you're thinking, she said. Not through doors, not with keys. She tapped her temple lightly. I leave. Up here. My stomach tightened. You're saying you do this in your mind? She smiled again. Oh, doctor, you're still trying to make it fit into your world. You think of the mind as something small, something locked inside the skull, but it's so much bigger than that. So much freer. A part of me wanted to end this session, to call the orderlies to get up and walk out. But another part, a much darker part, Was afraid of what would happen if I left without understanding. I took a slow breath. Then show me. Eleanor's smile faded. Her fingers drummed against the chair's armrest. Are you sure? I hesitated. Something inside me screamed. Not to say yes, but I did. Yes, I whispered. Her eyes darkened. And then, everything changed. The moment the word yes left my lips, something shifted in the room. It was subtle at first. The hum of the fluorescent lights grew distant, like sound filtering through water. The air thickened, pressing against my skin in a way that made it hard to breathe. The walls, the sterile white walls of Blackwood, seemed to ripple like heat rising off pavement. I blinked. Eleanor hadn't moved, but her eyes had changed. They weren't brown anymore. They were darker, deeper, as if staring into them was like looking through a keyhole into something vast and endless. Relax, she said softly. This part is always strange the first time. My pulse pounded against my ribs. What's happening? She tilted her head, considering me. You wanted to understand, so now you will. A sharp pull yanked at my chest. I gasped. The room tilted, stretched, broke apart. My body felt light, weightless, like I was floating, like I was drifting away from myself. Then I was standing, not in the chair across from Eleanor, but beside it. I could still see my body, seated, still. My eyes were open, staring blankly ahead. My hand gripped my notepad, but my fingers weren't moving. I wasn't in it anymore. A cold terror slid through me. What did you do? Eleanor stood slowly, stepping around my motionless body. She moved with certainty, her gaze steady as she studied me. I let you see the world the way I do. I tried to steady my breathing, but there was no breath. My chest wasn't rising. My heartbeat was gone. And yet, I was here. I reached out, instinctively trying to touch my desk, but my fingers passed through it. Panic surged. This isn't possible, I said, shaking my head. This is some kind of hallucination. It's real, Eleanor interrupted. This is how I leave, Doctor. Holloway. This is how I walk beyond these walls, how I find them. I turned sharply toward her. Find who? She smiled, stepping closer. The ones who deserve to die. My stomach dropped. Eleanor, listen to me. Whatever this is, whatever you're doing, it's dangerous. To who? She asked. To them? To you? My hands curled into fists, though they didn't feel like hands anymore. Just the shape of them, the memory of weight. You kill people. That's murder, Eleanor. Her smile didn't fade. And yet you don't feel afraid of me, do you? I hesitated. She was right. My heart, if I still had one, was racing, but not with fear, with fascination. A slow, creeping realization settled into my mind. If Eleanor could leave her body, if she could move through the world unseen, could I? I turned toward the door, the solid door that had always stood between the patients and the outside world. I reached for it and walked right through. I stepped through the door, expecting resistance, expecting to feel something. But there was nothing. No sensation, no weight, no force holding me back. One moment I was inside the therapy room, and the next, I was in the hallway. I turned back. The door was still closed. From this side, the window in it gave me a clear view of the room I had just left. My body was still there, seated, motionless, eyes open but vacant, like a puppet with its strings cut. Eleanor stood beside it, watching me through the glass. She didn't move, didn't speak, just smiled. A deep unease settled in my chest. I turned away. The hallway stretched before me, identical to how it always had been. The cold white tiles, the buzzing fluorescent lights, the distant echo of footsteps from the nurses making their evening rounds. Everything looked normal, but it wasn't. I moved forward, my steps silent, The air around me felt different, thicker, almost like I was walking through water. I looked down at myself, at whatever version of me was moving through this space. I was still me, still shaped like my body, but not solid. A thought crept into my mind. If I could walk through doors, could I be seen? I stepped toward an approaching nurse. She was young, red-haired, her face drawn with exhaustion as she checked her clipboard. I reached out, waving a hand in front of her face. Nothing. She didn't react. I stepped closer. "Can you hear me?" No response. I was invisible. A strange thrill ran through me. This wasn't just some out-of-body hallucination. This was real. And if Eleanor was telling the truth, if she had been doing this for years, then she had been out here, beyond her locked room, killing. I turned sharply, hurrying back toward the therapy room. I needed to go back, to wake up, to stop this. But then, a voice, low, cold, not Eleanor's. "What are you doing out here, doctor?" I froze. The hallway shifted. The lights overhead flickered, buzzing angrily, casting long, warped shadows against the walls. The air turned heavy, pressing down on me like unseen hands. I turned slowly. A figure stood at the end of the hallway, tall, unmoving, the shape of a man, but wrong. His face was lost in shadow, his arms hanging loosely at his sides, like a puppet waiting to be strung up. A cold dread spread through me. This wasn't Eleanor. This wasn't a nurse or a patient. This was something else. I took a step back. The figure tilted its head. Then, in a voice that sent ice through my veins, it whispered, "You shouldn't be here." The figure at the end of the hall didn't move, but the weight of its presence was crushing. My entire body, or whatever version of it existed in this state, felt wrong. Like something had its hands on me, pressing me down, stopping me from running. "You shouldn't be here." The voice wasn't loud, but it filled the space, creeping into my skull, under my skin. It was neither deep nor sharp, neither angry nor calm. It was just there. I forced myself to speak. "Who are you?" The figure tilted its head. A horrible feeling twisted in my stomach. I felt watched, not just by it, but by something bigger. Behind me, Eleanor's voice cut through the air like a blade. "Come back, Dr. Holloway." I turned, my mind screaming at me to move, to go back. I lunged toward the therapy room door, but before I could step through, the lights went out. Total darkness. A pressure built in my chest. The air around me thickened, and suddenly the world shifted. The hallway was gone. The hospital was gone. I was somewhere else. A dark street, wet pavement, the sharp smell of rain. A streetlight flickered above me, casting a dim glow over the narrow alley ahead. I knew this place. My stomach turned to ice. This was where Daniel Porter had died. I staggered forward, my breath ragged. My hands weren't hands anymore. They were smoke, shapeless, formless, like Eleanor. Then I heard it. The soft, hurried steps of a man walking, Daniel Porter. I turned toward the sound, and there he was, alive. He didn't see me. He just kept walking, his coat pulled tight against the rain. His breath came in small, visible puffs. He was nervous, watching his surroundings. He must have felt something was wrong. I tried to move closer, to warn him. But then, a second figure appeared. A woman, Eleanor. She stepped from the shadows, silent, like she had been waiting, like she had always been here. Daniel barely had time to react before she lunged. The knife glinted in the dim light. His gasp was barely audible over the rain as the blade sank between his ribs. Blood bloomed across his coat. His briefcase hit the pavement, papers spilling out onto the wet ground. His knees buckled. His hands trembled as he tried to grab her wrist, tried to fight. But Eleanor was already stepping back, calm, watching. Daniel collapsed. His body twitched once, then stilled, and just like that, he was dead. A scream built in my throat, but before I could release it, a hand closed around my wrist. I whipped around. The figure from the hallway was right behind me. It smiled. Then, everything went black. The darkness swallowed me whole. Thick, heavy, endless. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I wasn't anywhere. For a moment, I thought I had died, that the thing in the hallway, the thing that had grabbed me, had pulled me into some place I couldn't return from. Then, a flicker, a dim light far away. I wasn't alone. A sound drifted through the void. Soft footsteps, growing closer. I tried to turn, but my body, if I still had one, wasn't responding. I could only listen as the steps approached, slow and deliberate, each one sending a pulse through the darkness. Then a voice. Calm, familiar. You saw it, didn't you? A figure emerged from the blackness, stepping into the faint glow. Eleanor. She was exactly as she had been in my office, her hair falling loosely around her pale face, her hands clasped in front of her. But there was something different now, something colder, stronger. I found my voice. What the hell is happening to me? She smiled slightly. You're learning. I struggled to move, to wake up, but I was stuck, trapped in this shapeless world between places. I don't want to learn, I snapped. I want to go back. Eleanor sighed, tilting her head. Back to what? To my body, to my life. This isn't real. Her smile faded. Oh, Dr. Holloway, she whispered. It's more real than anything you've ever known. I clenched my jaw. You killed Daniel Porter. Yes, no hesitation, no remorse. And Jonathan Kent? Margaret Hayes? The others? She nodded. Why? Her eyes darkened. Because they deserved it. I felt rage rising in my chest. You're a murderer, Eleanor. She didn't flinch. And yet, Doctor, here you are. A shiver crawled through me, because she was right. I had left my body. I had walked through walls. I had stood in the very place where Daniel Porter had been murdered, watching it happen as if time meant nothing. And worse, something had seen me. The figure in the hallway. The thing that had pulled me here. I forced myself to push the fear down. That thing I saw. The one that grabbed me. What was it? Eleanor's expression shifted. You felt it, didn't you? A cold weight pressed against my ribs at the memory. That wasn't just some shadow, Doctor, she murmured. It's what waits in the dark places, the ones we're not supposed to see. I swallowed hard. It was waiting for me. It was, she said, because you don't belong here. Not yet. My breath hitched. Then let me go. She took a step closer, her gaze locking onto mine. Tell me, Dr. Holloway, she whispered. Are you sure you still want to? Eleanor's question hung in the air. Are you sure you still want to? Something about the way she said it made my skin crawl, like she already knew the answer. I clenched my fists, or at least, I thought I did. In this place, in this form, my body didn't feel real. My hands weren't hands. My breath wasn't breath. I was something else now, and that terrified me. I forced my voice to stay steady. I want to go back. Eleanor sighed, tilting her head like she was disappointed. That's a shame. You were so close to understanding. Understanding what? I snapped. She took a slow step toward me. That we don't have to be trapped. Not in our bodies, not in time. We can move through the world however we choose. Go anywhere. See anything. Her eyes gleamed. Do anything. My stomach twisted. You mean kill? She didn't flinch. Yes. I shook my head. You think you're free, but you're not. You're just Lost. She laughed softly. Lost? No, doctor. I've never been more found. I was like you once, chained to the rules of the physical world, believing that the only life I had was the one locked inside my own skin. But then I let go. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. And I can show you how. I took a step back. I don't want to know. Eleanor's expression hardened. Lying doesn't suit you, doctor. Something about her tone, the certainty in it, unnerved me. Because the truth was, a part of me was curious. I had stepped out of my body, moved unseen, crossed into places I should never have been able to reach, and something deep inside me, something dark, something I didn't want to acknowledge, had felt powerful. Eleanor must have seen it in my face because her smile returned. You feel it, don't you? She whispered. I swallowed hard, refusing to answer. She took another step forward, her presence pressing against me like a thick fog. You can go back to your life, Doctor. Holloway. Pretend none of this happened, but you'll always wonder. You'll always know. Her voice softened. Or you can let go and see the world the way it really is. The weight of her words pressed down on me. Go back. Be normal again. Forget this ever happened, or step forward into something unimaginable. A choice. A dangerous, deadly choice. And as I hesitated, I realized I wasn't sure which one I wanted. I wanted to say no. I wanted to turn away from Eleanor, reject whatever this was, wake up in my office and pretend none of it had ever happened. But I couldn't, because she was right. I had felt it. That strange, intoxicating power of moving unseen, of stepping beyond the limits of my body, of existing outside the rules of the physical world. And the worst part? A small, twisted part of me liked it. I stared at Eleanor, my throat dry. What happens if I say yes? Her lips curved into a knowing smile. Then you'll never be bound again. Bound. The word clung to me like smoke. Bound to what? To my body? To time? To rules? I glanced over my shoulder at the darkness behind me. I still felt it. That thing, the one that had pulled me here. Waiting. Watching. I turned back to Eleanor. And if I say no, her expression didn't change. Then you go back. Back to your office. Back to your body. Back to the world where you think you're safe. My pulse pounded in my head. And you? She stepped closer. I stay here, and I keep doing what I do. I clenched my jaw. Killing people. Her gaze didn't waver. Some people deserve to die, Doctor. The words sent a chill down my spine. I thought back to the victims. Jonathan Kent, Margaret Hayes, Daniel Porter. Were they innocent? Were they guilty of something? Had Eleanor chosen them for a reason? Or was she just a murderer who had discovered something unnatural, something beyond life, and used it to hunt? I exhaled slowly. Why me? Why show me this? Eleanor tilted her head. Because you're different. I frowned. How? Her smile faded. Because you stepped through the door. A shiver crawled up my arms. She was right. I had done this. I had left my body. No one had forced me. Eleanor hadn't pushed me. I had made the choice. And now, I had another choice to make. I swallowed hard. How do I go back? Eleanor studied me as if trying to decide whether I was lying to her or to myself. Then she reached out. Her fingers brushed my forehead, and the world shattered. The darkness peeled away. A rushing sensation filled my head like I was falling backward at impossible speed. My vision blurred, my body snapped into place, and I gasped. The air rushed back into my lungs. The room swam into focus. I was back, sitting in my chair, in my office. Eleanor was across from me, her eyes half-lidded, as if she were just waking up too. Had it happened? Had any of it been real? I looked down at my notepad. There, in my own handwriting, were the words I didn't remember writing. She's telling the truth. I stared at the words on my notepad, my pulse hammering in my ears. She's telling the truth. I didn't remember writing it. My pen was still resting in my hand, fingers curled around it in a death grip, but my mind was blank. The last thing I remembered was Eleanor's hand touching my forehead, the sensation of falling, breaking apart, drifting. But now I was back in my body, back in my office. Had it all been in my head? A hallucination? A vivid, twisted nightmare? I looked up at Eleanor. She was watching me, calm, composed, like nothing had happened. I swallowed hard, forcing my voice to stay steady. What did you do to me? Her lips curled slightly. I showed you. I opened my mouth, ready to argue, to tell her she was delusional, that this was all a trick. But I couldn't, because I had seen it, felt it. I had left my body, walked through walls, watched a man die in real time, and I had seen something else, something in the dark, waiting. I took a shaky breath. I don't want this. I don't want anything to do with it. Eleanor's expression didn't change. Then forget it. I frowned. What? She shrugged. Forget everything. Convince yourself it wasn't real. Go back to your safe little world, where things make sense. I clenched my jaw. And what happens to you? She tilted her head. What do you think? A terrible realization settled in my gut. She would keep killing. Moving through the world unseen, stepping beyond locked doors, slipping into the night like a ghost. And no one would ever stop her. I had two options, turn her in, or walk away. But what could I even report? That a woman who had been locked inside this hospital for 10 years was somehow committing murders in places she physically couldn't be? That she could leave her body, step into some other world, and return without a trace? No one would believe me. And deep down, I knew the truth. Even if they locked her in a darker cell under heavier sedation, in a facility even more secure than Blackwood, it wouldn't stop her. I exhaled slowly. I don't think I can forget. Eleanor smiled. I know. A knock on the door made me jump. I turned toward it instinctively, just for a second. When I looked back, Eleanor was gone. The chair was empty. My stomach dropped. I jumped to my feet, spinning toward the door. I yanked it open. The hallway was quiet. Normal. The two orderlies who had been standing outside were still there. I turned back to my office, my breath catching in my throat. No sign of her. No footprints. No disturbance. Nothing. It was as if she had never been here at all. But I knew better. Because when I looked down at my notepad, I saw one final message. 4 words, scrawled in handwriting that wasn't mine. See you again soon.